Hey. Well, I didn't expect that we would be returning to the air quite so soon, but in the spirit of the Small Bear and Pickles show, we like to improvise. We last sat down with our friend and our good friend and contributor to Nocturnicorn Books, Michael H. Hansen, and who created, among other things, the Shada shared universe series. He's written for the Jane Yolen's Heroes in Hell, among other um, amazing distinctions. And for those of you who don't know, with the very very few who aren't in the loop, get you up to speed. Um, my name is Alex S. Johnson, and I'm disabled, first of all, because I have a brain injury. Also, I'm neurodivergent AF. I mean, I have dyscalculia, and that's a kind of a specific learning disability that affects your ability to do anything having to do with quantification.
Good.
Nevertheless, I think, like our friend Ellen Maybe, I totally overcompensated because it was kind of life or death, right? I mean, it's a matter of like, so you can't get a job as a drive. So I couldn't do a lot of things that Catfish McDarris can do, like wrestling live bears or I don't know. Catfish is sort of like one of these. He seems like one of these larger than life Paul Bunyan kind of people, right? And he's a recent
Mhm.
addition to the Nocturnicorn books. I guess our stable authors, our stable of authors. That sounds wrong. Pony girls, pony boys. I
Stable.
don't know. Stable. He's a staple, like that.
Oh, all
And
right, yeah.
but so we love Catfish McDarris. We're collaborating on a novel. He collaborated with Charles Bukowski, right? We're writing a
Oh,
book
cool.
called Naked Serial Killers on Acid.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's the he's kind of like basically if you he's the last of them, like you had Hunter S. Thompson, William S. Burroughs are dead, Charles Bukowski is dead, Allen Ginsberg is dead. We still have Catfish McDarris, so we'll take advantage of his being still with us. We also are friends with Alexis Roan Fancher. We're gonna have on the show in a few days, who wrote Junkie Mom. And so anyway, so I'm a retired English professor because, you know, when you have a disability, you wind up like fighting for your life and you fight like hell with everything you have. And I think that's true for a lot of people. I know it's what led me to become involved with Tom Sullivan. Tom Sullivan is a guy who is blind since birth. And when I was working for this boutique secretarial service in Torrance, California, which was then had the world's largest indoor mall, and where the movie Jackie Brown was filmed, with Quentin Tarantino did that one. And so I was working for these people as after I had worked as a medical transcriptionist for Los Encinas Hospital, and I worked with Dr. Drew Pinsky, who was kind of an arsehole. He still is, and I've got all sorts of Dr. Drew stories, including the time that he was literally fucking vomiting into the toilet while he was dictating. I was like, "What the fuck, dude? My dude, you're traumatizing innocent
What's wrong with
people."
that?
What? I mean,
What's wrong with that?
it's traumatizing. So Greg,
He
what
sounds
would
high
it?
functioning.
Yeah. Okay. So seriously though, would you take? dictation from a guy who was like literally vomiting in the toilet. It's like 15 minutes of like, like that. And he's like, well, the patient,
It sounds awkward.
it sounds awkward, right?
I
Well,
like the
but
irony of the situation,
okay, how so?
but I wouldn't want. I
Right.
agree with you. I wouldn't want to participate in it. I think it's. I think it's conceptually funny.
It's conceptually funny. It's conceptually funny to the point that being a huge fan of like people like Lester Bangs, I decided to do a kind of a Dada thing where I wrote a music review of his,
Good.
and I said I compared it to musique concrète and sort of like the Beatles and John Cage, and he was not too pleased with this, but what the fuck,
Mm.
so I sort of thought, because like you know how like Lester Bangs would do these sort of almost like Dada confrontations with people like Lou Reed, and he would really get into it, right? And mock him and try to get into a fight with him. And I'm a huge fan of Dada, right? I know
Yeah, of
that
course.
who isn't? I mean, if you have sexuality, right? Because Dada is extremely erotic, right? I mean, Marcel Duchamp, are you kidding me? And anyway, so
I just did. I I could have sworn I felt I did something today that was very Duchamp. Or
really,
I told. Yeah. That reminded me of that. Um, I don't know if I sent you this one sketch I did a few. I've really fallen in love with ink sketching lately,
oh
but
wow.
it's a sketch and it's a little, silly little portrait, and then around it there's two caution cones, and then it says caution bad art.
Oh,
and
nice. I love
but
it. I love it.
it's very meta.
Oh,
It's kind of, I'll send
Awesome.
it to you guys. Yeah.
I will
That
send
sounds
you I will
great.
send you my novel that I'm with a 98%, 99. I would love a review. I would love a blurb from you, Greg. It's called Twilight of the Doom Hippies. And it is
Mhm.
basically it's the sequel to Brides of Doom, which was a sequel to the my most famous book, well, except for Death Moon. It's called The Doom Hippies, which is in the collection of the Widener Library at Harvard University. They seem to consider it important. I think it was just shenanigans. I mean, I've got some goofy stories in there, very goofy stories, but including Vam Pussy, which is about what happens when Nico basically, this part is literally true. She died in a bizarre bicycling accident on the Spanish island of Ibiza, and what is not true, well, we don't know if it's true or not, because I've sort of introduced this into the slipstream, that her pussy spontaneously ejected, and it turned out that it was actually a symbiotic. Um, she had developed her pussy had developed a symbiotic relationship with a vampire bat, and a vampire bat had actually replaced it. And so that was fun. That was a fun story to write, and I've written several
Yeah.
fan pussy stories
I
since then.
love bats. I've fallen in love with bats lately.
Yeah,
They're
if you
wonderful
like
Yeah,
little mammals.
if you
they
like
are.
bats, then you'll really
I know a
love
lady who has a bat house for it's like a little wooden house, bird house for the bat.
Bad
Oh,
Sunset. No, it's
cool.
Yeah.
Bad Sunset. I was joking. Bad Sunset. But I think
Oh wow.
yeah, but if you like bats, then I think you'll probably like one of our contributors is David J. Haskins, who wrote Bela Lugosi's Dead, right? And you're going to be in at least three of our books, right? If you, yeah. So you're
Hmm.
writing the introduction to Oma Kali, right? To the goddess, and you're
Yeah.
contributing to the Bauhaus and
Hmm.
the other Burroughs, right? William S. Burroughs. And so we need to talk about
Oh yeah,
Pickles.
that's wonderful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Pickles. Um, so what can I say about Pickles? Like Alea Celeste Williams. So I am yeah, I live in Carmichael, California. It's a suburb of Sacramento. And
Hmm.
Sacramento is the capital of California. And Pickles, Alea here
Yeah. Yeah,
lives.
I think is
Yeah,
that where Cornel West is from?
yes, he is. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's he's my home fries. Yeah, for reals though. And then,
Yeah.
so we're going to talk about Cornel West. Cornel West wrote the foreword to your thesis. That's amazing. And then Aaliyah is a fine artist. She's a poet. She's an extremely good
Yeah.
poet. She lives in a rural area of Michigan called Monroe, Michigan.
Okay.
And so we were talking about it. We decided because David J. Haskins wrote such a brilliant poem, which was basically for the Burroughs book, which was basically it, and it also it has Easter eggs to Bela Lugosi's Dead, which is awesome for the fans. You know, if you're a hardcore like Burroughs fan um and a Bauhaus fan, I think that the audience for these there's a big crossover for the audience of both these books because we have virtually the same cast of character. You know, we have the basically the same lineup. Only only the variation is like we have more rock stars in
Yeah.
we have more rock stars and famous film directors and whatever in the Bauhaus book. So the Bauhaus book, like the Burroughs book, has an introduction by Poppy Z. Brite, Billy Martin, and Caitlin R. Kiernan has contributed a story. And this we have the same, you know, the same type of deal with the Bauhaus book where Poppy Billy Martin wrote the forward, and we have just innumerable kind of the contributors list is getting out of control. It's getting out of
Hmm.
hand. We don't even know where to start. You know, these books are going to be like
Yeah.
massive, and they're going to be like um,
Fat.
basically
Good.
fat. You know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, they
you
are.
know, like you
Thick.
know who was
Yeah.
the
Thick.
you know it wasn't Walter Benjamin. It was who was the critic that it was
Roland Barthes?
I think it was Bakhtin, you know, Bakhtin, Mikhail
Uh,
Bakhtin, who I think he needed something to roll his cigarettes with. So he rolled up his copy of his only like copy of his manuscript about the German novel. And I think we've all had that desperate moment where we're like, we need cigarette papers, right? But we're not all like Mikhail Bakhtin. You know, shit, man, I'm gonna have to write that again. You do what you have to
Charles
do.
Sanders Peirce, just the same, had to write opposite pages of a manuscript he'd already completed
Wow.
because he didn't have enough money for paper. It's kind of absurd,
Wow.
but
And then poor, you know, poor Marquis de Sade, Alphonse Domitian Marquis de Sade had to wipe his ass with the 120 days of Sodom. No,
mhm.
that's not true.
The good marquee, exactly.
The apocryphal story about Marquis de Sade is he was when they liberated what was the was it
The asylum.
the asylum
Oh, no,
what,
no, no, no,
what,
wait,
what
no, no, the Bastille, because
the
he had
Bastille,
apparently, people say that he started the destruction of the Bastille by yelling out at people on the street.
really.
So he's wild.
He was always
He
up
was
to
also a playwright of something like
shenanigans.
24 plays.
Wow.
He wrote something like 24 plays that were performed at the asylum.
That's craziness. Okay, so you know what's crazy
Yeah.
is you were reviewed by Gayatri Spivak. Now, I want to talk
Uh-huh.
to you about I guess I'll start with the because it comes immediately to mind because we're the same person. I wrote The Flowers of Doom, which was directly inspired by Les Fleurs de Mal, and it's going to be translated by our friend who we've had on the show, Seb Dubinsky, right? Seb Dubinsky is probably one of the most acclaimed science fiction writers, of alive, and his mentor is Michael Moorcock. And so yeah, and my book, here's what John Shirley
There
said.
you
John Shirley, who wrote the movie The Crow, said Alex S. Johnson is the Baudelaire of our time, the poet of the underground. I mean, the Baudelaire of our time, semicolon, the poet of the underground. It's like that is like the equivalent of when Stephen King wrote, I've seen the future of horror and his name is Clive Barker, right? So I got one of those blurbs, right, from John Shirley, who created cyberpunk. Oh my God, so that's what he said about it. And it's going to be translated into French. And so we're the same person, you and I. So, which is eerie.
go. My Psalms of Babylon or 112 Flowers of Malaise.
Yeah.
I wonder what that book, who its chief inspiration was. I don't know. I, it doesn't seem it's got something like 70 poems of the 112 in that book are in
Hmm.
fact haikus.
Right.
So, but it's got a sort of Japanese Emily Dickinson spin to
Japanese
it.
Japanese Emily Dickinson. I'm just trying to imagine if Emily Dickinson were Japanese, because Catfish imagined what if William S. Burroughs was a prairie dog from outer space, and William S. Burroughs asked whether language was a virus from outer space.
Hmm.
So, if Emily Dickinson were Japanese, you she would be you.
What?
Is that is that how it works? Like you are the
No, but it's
Japanese
I'm trying
Emily
to figure out.
Dickinson?
It's I don't mean to say it's got the Japanese slant because they're haikus, not
Mhm.
a priori or so on and so forth, but it's just historically.
Quay,
But
quay, 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 quay. Punchers and
yeah,
Wasserman, etc. Like
um
like waiting for Godot, right?
yeah.
Like
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Cornell
that,
West. It really he I he would always bring up Samuel Beckett.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my mentor at UC Davis was Ruby Cohn, right? Who was the first scholar. It was basically was getting her degree from the Sorbonne in the late 50s or so, and she she heard tale in town of this some sort of play that was being put on. It was even before it was performed in like in publicly, just sort of a basically a rehearsal of Waiting for Godot, and became absolutely fell in love with Samuel Beckett. And they collaborated on this book together, which is the first scholarship of Samuel Beckett. And like every year since then, and she lived to be nearly 100. She was, look, 92 when she died. She would travel to Paris every year to visit him. And she was my mentor at UC Davis and encouraged me to write plays, when I was writing radio dramas. So that's pretty amazing, right? And she edited some of his books, like Disjecta, I think it's called. Disjecta.
Hmm.
It was like fragments. So yeah, so Cornell West. So I wanted to ask you, I think we were talking about how the relationship between postmodernism and modernism, and there's something they talk about postmodernism now, right? So those two are kind of in a
Yeah, some people talk about
dialectical
that.
relationship. I don't know. And I really like what
Some people don't even believe in postmodern modernity.
so yeah,
It's
so
so
so so
yeah.
so so I think one of the basic things, obviously, in philosophy is you define your terms. And so for the viewers out there who haven't lost long ago, because this is
Mm.
boring if you're not into it. What is oh so how do we relate postmodernism to to your average viewer of our show, and explain how is it relevant to their how is postmodernism relevant to the average person's life?
Well, postmodernism is, well, it depends. It can be about a clouding or perhaps a clarity, just the same,
Uh-huh.
but not with not. But sometimes the focus that, for example, analytic philosophy prioritizes. Postmodernism may be an attempt to just, for example, Marx wants to demystify, but
Mhm.
for some postmodernists, they want to mystify in such a sense as to make more complex or raise awareness as to more complexity,
Okay,
greater complexity.
so to break it down, Marx wanted to demystify the specifically the relationship between um, the the actual the proletariat, or the people who actually create the goods and services and the things that
Oh,
make
absolutely.
money,
Yeah.
and the bourgeoisie who are sort of control the markets and are the financiers and so forth, and to take away that discrepancy between the people who control everything and the workers who actually
Oh no,
produce
I'm
the
not
goods.
contesting that.
No. I'm not saying you're contesting it. What I'm trying to just break it down
Oh,
to for people who
oh,
might be watching, one of the one or two people that watch our show, because they'll be saying, okay, you're talking about, you're using abstract terms like demystify, and I was in graduate school. I have a master's degree in literature, English literature, but nobody's going to know what we're talking about, right? So I want to make it accessible. It's like, for example, postmodernism is I think the thing that people would immediately grasp is meta, right? There's
mm.
so many examples of meta, and I started to see meta creep in. Well, I mean, if people haven't read Don Quixote, that's the first postmodernist book. But but I started to seeing it in like movies like Scream, right? The Scream series, right? Very, very self-referential and
Yeah.
sort of mise en abîme in a way, right? Um, and that means for the one or two people who get it, and I don't have to explain it, but mise en abîme means sort of abyss of mirrors. So it means like a sort of like you imagine like walking through a hall of mirrors, and everything is reflected and
In
reflected and reflected
infinite,
and reflected
infinite
to
or something
infinity.
like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah. And I think there was a book about Sade with called A Sudden Abyss. Have you read that? Sade, A Sudden
Yes.
Abyss. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Y- I was just thinking that sort of reminded
I
me
haven't
there's,
looked at that.
yeah, 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 go ahead. Yeah. So, what is,
Oh no,
so,
no, I was just.
so you created the first American, um, rigorous, um, idealistic philosophical system. And what's the name of that?
Oh, American idealism.
It's American idealism. So who were some of the exemplars of American idealism that people would know?
Well, I suppose I would classify. It depends. It depends on how you classify the American pragmatists like
Mhm.
Emerson,
Yes.
Ralph Waldo Emerson, or Charles Sanders Peirce. Those are the pragmatists. But idealism, for example, when I think of idealism,
Oh, so
of
you
course
were
I'm talking about Hegel.
right, but you were saying, so you were, just to clarify, you were saying that Pierce and Emerson were pragmatists, or no? Did I
Right.
completely,
Well,
okay, they were
yeah,
pragmatists.
Emerson
Yeah.
is identified as right. Oh,
But
before and then so what I mean to say is that
right, okay.
um hmm, right. So but American idealism. So I don't. It depends. So what I mean to just my first comment would
Hmm.
be to say that prior to the rise of analytic philosophy, it
Okay.
was the case.
What is analytic philosophy? I'm completely lost. I'm a stranger
Oh,
in town.
pardon.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
pardon.
yeah, it's no worse.
Oh,
So
it's a
so there's
yeah, it's
continental
just a
philosophy, which is European
right.
philosophy, right? Which is starts with people like Kant and Hegel, and then you have romantic, where more romantic, post. Um, you have what I think of Kierkegaard as being the father of existentialism. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I
Yeah.
believe, right,
He's my
Kierkegaard.
background right now.
Yeah, yeah, he's amazing. Pickles and I were talking about Kierkegaard with Fear and Trembling, and so I think it goes back to ethics. So Kant wanted to establish a rationalized system of ethics. Do you think that Kant accomplished that, Greg?
I would say now what how are you using the word rationalist because
No,
he's
no, no, rationalized. Um,
rationalized
in other words, basically,
rationalized.
I think he was talking
You don't
about
mean attachment to the rationalist as and then like that may be too specific. But it was a little
no,
bit too
no.
coincidental not to bring up. I thought perhaps you meant like for example, like you might say Leibniz is a rationalist.
Leibniz is a
Something like that.
rationalist. Okay. No, no, I meant he rationalized this
Ethics.
ethics, right? And I don't think that
Right.
it completely worked. I think it was brilliant attempt, but I don't think it worked.
Ingenious. The
Ingenious,
ingenious
ingenious. That's
professor from Königsberg.
yes, yes, yes.
Little
And
man.
right, what did Nietzsche say about him in Twilight of the Idols? He said something about remember that passage
He's
in,
just so
in
fresh about Kant.
he is fucking
He,
fresh. Yeah,
he is fresh about Kant. That's not
yeah,
fair.
yeah.
He
It's
hates Kant, if I recall correctly. I forgot about
right.
that.
What remember
He
like
makes fun of him a lot.
and what is it? What is it? It is the same title in as the Wagner opera, right? Twilight of the Idols, Götterdämmerung, or is it something else? Um, where
Um,
he talks about having breakfast, like he has used the metaphor of sort of like the mists of the Königsbergian mists, whatever, are lifted, and basically it ends with breakfast, right? He wanted to completely dispel well, maybe there's a bad odor to it as well, but of the whole idea that there's some other realm that is transcendental
Moral or
of
something.
this realm, right?
Oh.
This moral. And then he seemed to have a love and hate relationship with Plato. Like he keeps, but he seems to admire Socrates. So this is another really interesting question. Like, what's
He's
the
just a critic.
he's a
He calls
critic.
Socrates. He calls
He's a
Socrates.
curmudgeon, man. He's a grumpus. He's just
I'm
sitting
thinking
there
about
just hating.
I'm thinking about my next philosophical manuscript to be a critique of the will to power, but
Yeah.
Nietzsche's famous unfinished manuscripts and journals.
Yeah.
But I want to re flip the whole thing on its. I'm gonna flip it on its head
Okay.
and
Like what we're
rename it the will
saying
to
here.
pleasure. I have a yeah,
I
the
love
will
it.
to pleasure.
Why not? Well, I mean
Yeah,
that
but
that
it's not heated, but not in a hedonistic sense, nor in a
okay.
brute utilitarian sense.
Wow. But that can be fun.
So I see. Follow Mill with the qualitative utilitarianism, elevated more, so on and so forth. But it basically becomes a treatise on aesthetics and idealism,
Hmm.
and yeah,
Well, if you have the pleasure principle, I mean, automatically you think. I mean, I know you said
exactly,
not
exactly. Yes, I have to talk about the
hedonism,
pleasure principle as well,
but
right?
you
No,
would have
exactly.
to
It's instinct.
disambiguate for the people. Otherwise, people would like you know you'd be criticized. You say, well, it sounds like you're talking about Freud,
Hmm.
and then you could get into the whole opposition with dialectical opposition with the death instinct, right? So I mean, is that so? It seems like deceptive to say the will to pleasure, but also I think maybe that's part of the wellspring of desire, it to be whatever it is you are. Like, I mean, I think Nietzsche was on about everything, even inanimate objects, has a sort of a desire to completely um,
But are most people, do you think, driven by will to power
overcome
or will
everything
to
else in
pleasure?
order to expand ourselves into whatever um, capacity we have to dominate our environment. And I think that
Mhm.
I think that's what I think was Nietzsche was on about was the fact that he was just a realist. He said he's is basically like we're all competing for the same turf, and some of us are smarter than others. And it's just a fact some of us are going to be more dominant than others, and some of us are going to lose out. I don't think he
Hmm.
was any more than Machiavelli. I don't think he was like basically the way he's been sort of co-opted by some fascism and so forth. But
Right, right. His
yeah,
sister implanted a lot of things into the notebooks and so
yeah,
on and so forth.
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
So, Pickles is actually one of the first things that we discovered about one another, and our amazing friendship is that Pickles is the other person who carries around Nietzsche. Specifically, was it Twilight of the Gods or
Uh,
or the
the Sphinx, the
Das
Sphinx
Weg, also
Zarathustra,
sprach Zarathustra, right?
also
Mhm.
Yeah.
Zarathustra.
So
Yes.
you
Hmm.
want to weigh in, Pickles?
Oh. Oh my gosh. So, well,
I
see,
always throw
I'm
you in the deep end,
not
but
as yeah, he does. I'm not as well qualified to speak on these things as I think some of as you gentlemen are, because I know that you've studied a lot longer and a lot more of these things than I have. But I've only taken the one philosophy class. But I love Nietzsche. I just I don't know. But yeah, I get the will to power, and I get what you're saying. I think I get what you're saying about the idea of pleasure too, and the idea of um, following Mill. I can see a balance between the two ideas, really, because it makes sense to me. Because oh gosh, I don't know. I feel like I heard somewhere recently somebody had put it very well to me. It was something about I don't know, a balance of pleasure of having what you need, but not having so much excess as to make yourself sick or weigh yourself down with pleasure, but
right, yeah.
enough pleasure to have
Which
what
was
you need
also
and be happy and be
you know
content. I don't
you
know.
yeah.
I'm not really good at explaining that stuff.
I the first thing that comes to mind would in terms of being weighed down with pleasure almost I think of like my my will to pleasure brings up the French concept of jouissance, you know?
Well, exactly,
Yeah,
Jacques
right,
Lacan. But it
right.
also, right, we were talking before about Freud's pleasure principle.
Yeah.
And then of course, so Nietzsche's will to power is significantly Darwinist. Not but
Hmm.
not it involves Darwin. It's
Yeah.
not it's not neo-editive, it's not Darwinist. Well, to be a Darwinist is not and there's a difference between to be a Spencerite. That's the
Hmm.
distinction.
Yes, yes, very
Right.
much so, very
But
much so. And like Jack London, very
so
famous
that's
sort
what
of
actually my one
Spencerite.
professor
Yeah,
cautioned me, if
yeah.
writing on Darwin, you have to raise awareness that it's not the Darwin, Charles Darwin is not out there talking about people evolved a certain way. It's just nonsense.
Yeah,
This way sometimes.
it's that, and that's also just bad science, right?
But yeah,
It's not
to
accurate.
reclaim,
Yeah,
but it's not as it's not as if Nietzsche doesn't preoccupy himself with Darwin and the will to power.
sure.
It's talking about evolution. And in that way, instinct and so on. In that way, you can also tie in Henri Bergson
Henri Bergson, yeah. And
or
Henri
Bergson.
Bergson, and interestingly, yeah, because I think people, if they're familiar with Bergson at all, obviously comedy, right? The guy slipping on the banana peel because he gets into a mechanical relationship with I almost said thinking of like Benjamin, but with a banana peel. But he gets into a mechanical relationship with a banana peel, right? And he's always already slipping on the same fucking banana peel. And it's like what
Good.
that's what that's what Bergson identifies as the crux of comedy, the comedic in itself. Um, because the guy it's like he could have avoided the banana peel, but he's like relentlessly moving like a robot and in the same fucking direction every time towards the banana peel, right?
Okay.
Take it away. Take it away. Greg,
Uh,
what do you have to say about
cheers.
that
Yeah.
one? Yeah, yeah.
Well,
I think we've all been there.
about Chris Bull, his work, Creative Evolution.
Yeah,
Um, which is funny. A lot of people like to poke fun at. They say, it's not scientific. It's because, biologists might say, but he's not, he's talking about, it's almost like a sociological book more,
yeah,
than a philosophy book, proper, because it
right.
reminds me of, um, for example, Weber's The Protestant Work Ethic.
There you go.
In a certain respect, it's about, if you think about what people make it mistaken, what type of book
Oh man,
Creative
Max
Evolution
Weber,
is.
he's my man. He's my man,
Yeah.
right? The
Yeah,
Protestant work ethic.
it's about
Yeah,
functioning, it's about mental functioning in society.
yeah. That's intriguing.
Mental
Could you
ecosystem.
expand on that? Could you expand on that? Because mental functioning in society, where are we going with that?
Well, it's about the mental procession of ideology. And I've been struggling lately
Okay.
with yeah, I mean the mental processing of ideology, mental content and so on, ideation.
Hmm. Right. So
I'm
when you
thinking
right,
um,
when you talk about
and
ideology,
the I'm going to be writing the uh for the book, I'm thinking that I want to tie in about how Mahakali um,
yeah.
was linked to that with the whole. It's almost a dialectical process with
Well,
becoming the
well, well,
dialectical innocent. Yeah,
so you're saying is kind of in a way that the principle of absolute consciousness, knowledge, bliss, transcendent reality is in a dialectical relationship with itself.
I would actually that would be my theology.
Yeah, because the whole Vedanta principle is that we are all a projection of ourselves, which is the absolute transcendental reality, and we are all Kali.
Right.
Yeah, and including the platinum records um, behind you, Kali is everything. And you know what's freaky
Yeah.
is my new iMac has nanotechnology in it, which means
Really?
it can track my head movement.
Oh,
It's kind of creepy
yeah.
that way. It knows where my head is in space. Like I can move my
Yeah.
cursor with moving my head.
It's fascinating to think of all the different conceivable. Well, there's conceivability, and then there's just possibility. All the possible different senses there could be.
Right. Oh, wow.
If you think about how it picks up that that you could have is that now you might say is that a spatial
Yeah.
sense or but now that's just to get into now we're getting into phenomenology waters.
I knew we were going to go there. I knew we were going to wade in there. No, we don't just fucking wade into phenomenology. You immerse yourself like a baptism, right? Like a baptism.
Good.
You go in there, right? We're going to talk about Martin fucking Heidegger. Okay, let's bring it. I mean, it's extremely
Oh
meta.
no.
Yes, we are. We are. Yes, we're going to go there, right? Discuss.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
I
that
have
must
a
have been
friend,
wild for
a
me.
professor. I refer to her as uh, Mrs. Heidegger.
Mrs. Heidegger, I should
I
say.
am wondering whether it makes sense to discuss in the introduction Heidegger's being in time at some point.
Yeah.
But I'm sort of, but that thought has caused in me a whole sort of um, reflection period about what phenomenology is.
Hmm.
Uh,
What is phenomenology?
it's it's
That
just
sounds like a title of something,
oh, I want to
right?
write a book, The Phenomenology of Love. That'd be
Ooh,
wonderful.
yeah. I see a
Oh,
theme.
exactly.
I
Yeah.
see a
Nice.
theme here. Yeah, yeah. Crazy. So you're in love. You look like a man in love. You look
Huh.
happy. I'm
Yeah.
happy for you. Yeah, right. You got the goofiness that Pickles and I, right? We recognize
Oh,
that
I'm
look,
goofy as hell
right?
all the time.
We got the goofiness going on. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, being in so yeah,
pretty
because
wackadoodle.
I think of phenomenology is trying to delimit the actual contents of our consciousness in without in a kind of a rigorous way. I think that's what
Right. You might say
Heidegger
a
and
scientific understanding of
Husserl was doing.
cognition.
Yes. So do
It
you
might be maybe a scientific. It might say that even I actually have no in one of my encyclopedia, as a matter of fact,
Mhm.
where it has all the cognition essays.
Right.
I say there's no important distinction between psychoanalysis and phenomenology. One, you might they're two components of two different sides of the same coin, rather.
It's
Um,
like the wave and the particle, right? It's the
right.
kind of yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, they
Hells yeah. Hells yeah.
those are- yeah. But yeah, I think as much as I am loath to, I would rue writing on Martin Heidegger again. I
You
may
know
just
you
have
want
to go.
to. He's sexy as
I may
hell.
just have to go and knock out being in time.
Yeah. Of course you want to do that. You want to go there, right? So sexy, hot. But seriously though, he was a Nazi. So can we talk about that? Because, Nietzsche,
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, then
Heidegger,
that had been known for a
foreshadowed.
long time, of course.
Yeah.
But then what made it worse was the revealing publication of what were they, the Black Notebook, something like that, the
Yeah.
journals. Right? No, no, it's not. He was a Nazi, but so too was Carl Smith, who gets a lot of liberal. You know who that is? He's
No.
a famous. Well, Derrida made much ado of Carl Smith.
Yeah.
But
I
anyway,
mean,
he was a Nazi jurisprudence. He was a law
hmm.
professor, and I'm not. I just certainly disagree with his politics, but it's become quite commonplace in liberal law schools and so on and so forth. They study him to just try and figure out what is the far
Yeah.
right mentality,
Yeah.
because it's not like he's just he's a highly educated law professor who as far as professor goes, he's a law is sort of like the highest caliber, I feel. But there's my Kant coming out, as ethics and arbitration and so on and so forth are the most
Yeah.
important
Well, yeah,
books.
because as I discovered when I studied law, I would say I get this neurodegenerative disorder, but I was getting my certification as a paralegal because I really wanted to be hands-on, because as a civil rights guy, right, I wanted to be able to work with you know defense attorneys to help people out, and especially against cops,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
Because they get really it's this very sleazy and corrupt kind of network of it's basically, I mean, it's really bad here in Sacramento. Um, you
Uh,
can't because they have sort of, they're automatically sort of um covered, right? Like if they murder somebody, 99.9% of the time it's a black person, usually a black man,
right.
and then they're given immunity, right? For
Right.
what?
No, that of course I disagree with.
Yeah.
But we're seeing
The
that with a
presumption that
lot
they're
of
somehow, it's a professional, that they're taking, one of the professional burdens that they're taking on is the responsibility to murder people, usually based on their skin color. Right?
right.
Yeah. It's heavy. I mean, this is one of the things that we're
Gosh,
dealing with.
it's a hard thing. Well, yeah, it's a hard thing, and I feel it almost like it kind of depends on where you are and what kind of people. It really, gosh, it really depends on the person because um, I've been fortunate that I have like a friend that is a good friend that worked in law enforcement for 30 years that is a really wonderful person, and it's like, and I've been lucky that I've had good police officers here, but I know that there have been, oh my gosh, so many horrible corruption stories coming out of just different regions. I'm not meaning to interrupt. I'm just saying
No,
like
no, no, it's all good.
um
It's all good.
uh, I was just saying like I
Yeah.
can kind of see like that there's, I don't know, it seems like there's just a whole, I feel like there's a whole lot of problematic um
Yeah.
I don't know, division
But
going
we're seeing
on
similar,
that's
I think, similar phenomenon in, well, I suppose you might say any war. For example, Ukraine and
Hmm.
so on and so forth. We're seeing egregious human rights violations, you know, where it becomes.
Mhm.
But what I want to tie it back to importantly is the militancy
Hmm.
of certain
Yeah.
um, the more a group is militant or militarized,
Yeah,
people are very working against the militarization of the police.
yeah.
It's
Mhm.
supposed to be a wonderful civic. Now, do I say should there be a bunch of individuals employed by the municipal government paid at such and such 80,000, 90,000, 100,000? Oh,
Yeah,
all the merrier that there should be more people
yeah,
like that.
yeah.
I think it's a wonderful job. They just need to be, some people say reorganization. I think that reform is certainly on the table.
Hmm.
Um, but so I think I would definitely agree that militarization is egregious, and so too would be in some cases. I wonder to myself, do you think Putin and Russia is really cracking down on war crimes? And I mean,
Are
when his people are committing them, do you think those people are going to prison for a long time? I don't think so.
No, I
Probably
don't
just
think
lets them
so.
back onto the fighting field.
I don't think so. Also,
Mhm.
something that really
Oh,
concerns me is robotics. Um,
Right.
and and just the
yeah.
development of like nanotechnology and cybernetics to the point, or Neuralink, to the point where you're going to be able to create the robo soldiers of the future, which is where you get into like talking about MK Ultra basically. um, and and yeah, I mean, it might be tinfoil hat time, but this is literally what they're doing. It was what the American, the government, the CIA especially, is obsessed with creating robo soldiers out of human beings, right?
Yeah.
And they want to be able to program people, and if necessary, to implant them with
For
chips. And so
control.
so
Yeah.
unfortunately, this is also part of the cover up, is that just like the whole concept of conspiracy theories was actually fostered by the CIA. Not a whole lot of people know that, but that was an invention of the CIA to discredit
Mm,
critics of their nightmare programs, right? What they're
Right.
experimenting on with the
mhm,
black budget is turning people into assassins. And they took
Mm.
children in the
mhm.
1960s, and this has all been fully documented. And Pickles and I have actually been to the and anybody can go to the CIA library on the line,
Yeah.
CIA.gov, right? You can see for yourself
Mm,
what they've been, the shenanigans they've been up to. Um, and
mhm.
you know, if it
Mm.
wasn't for whatever the accidental discovery of MK Ultra, I mean, they're doing some horrific shit, and they still are. It's worse now. It's worse. I didn't mean it to get into that, but
Oh, oh. Well, there's it's almost like I don't know. I was so excited because we have so many different things we can talk about between all
Mhm.
of us. There's so many things that we all have interests in that are common. Um,
and we're all
but
so cute too.
the
We have cuteness going for us.
yeah. Yeah, pretty nice looking people. um but I want to can I ask also, I was just because I don't know, since we were talking about like the police corruption and stuff, I was curious about your experience with the guardian angels. How does that work? Like, what is that like? Can you tell me a little bit about that? I don't mean to interrupt. I really wanted
Alex's or
to.
mine?
Oh, yours. Yeah, yours, Greg. I just wanted to hear you have the like that I was looking at that picture that you had with the red beret on. Is that the
No,
like
no,
the
that's just
group?
aesthetic.
Oh, okay. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
no, people have
I
asked me that
was
before. They think I'm some kind of vigilante.
okay. Okay, cool. No, I
Vigilante.
wanted.
That's
Yeah.
funny.
Okay, I wanted to ask that. Okay.
Yeah.
That's great.
I kind of
That's
Um,
wanted to talk about something. We've been talking about some very abstract things, but I wanted to talk about some concrete things because as you seem awesome, Greg, I really want to bring you on board with a bunch of projects we're doing. When one of my dream pet projects, which we're realizing, and it's the Black Sabbath literary tribute. I don't know if you've been up to speed about that one.
no.
Okay, Pickles, could you fill him in
oh
on
yes, I
what we're
would
doing with Hand of
love
Doom?
to. Yes. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Hand of Doom is awesome. Okay, so we're doing a collaboration that's a tribute to Black Sabbath. That we have so many authors. Um, all of the proceeds are we still planning to do the are we still going to work with are we going with Wendy Dio right now because I
I
know
don't, what, no,
originally
no, no, no.
we were
Actually, it turns out that that was just a mistake. I mean, I'm still friends with Dr. Lee online, so
okay
I think
so
that was
we
just
can
some
still work
shenanigans.
with
Yeah,
we're
we're
fighting
definitely
child
cool with,
trafficking.
yeah, we're fighting child fucking horrible
Yeah,
nightmare
yeah, child sex
um
trafficking.
child sex
Yeah,
trafficking.
and yeah,
Okay.
we're trying to donate all the proceeds to that to help fight that, and so we
It's
have a lot
horrible.
of
Any kind of
amazing
trafficking.
Yeah.
writers.
Yeah, what happened, how it kind of started out was because I'm a music journalist primarily. I think of myself as a music journalist, and I've interviewed most people. Like in music, like I love heavy metal, and I
Hmm.
just love music. I mean, I love, but I kind of became associated with goth. A lot of bands like Christian Death and Roz Williams, Chiton Damone, people like that I interviewed, and Dinah Cancer from 45 Grave is another interesting person. Leslie Spivey from Penis Flytrap. It always makes Pickles smile when I say Penis Flytrap, but they're kind of like a side band of 45 Grave. And I have a really so and I have all these friends who are in like punk rock and like particularly our dear close friend Carrie Lee Crum, who
Hmm.
Yeah.
plays a significant role in all this story. But when I interviewed Ronnie James Dio, over the years, first time for Blood Songs magazine in 1998. Then it was during the Master of the Moon tour, or the Master of the Moon came out, right? 2003 or 2004. I interviewed him for Zero Tolerance magazine, which is a magazine in England. It's an extreme music magazine, which is some of the people who founded Terrorizer. I don't know if you've heard of. I don't know if you even like heavy metal, but it's certainly I've always been a fan. And so Terrorizer magazine was one of the big heavy metal magazines. And some of the people, Lisa Macy, who was on board with Terrorizer, and she started Zero Tolerance magazine, and I was one of them on the ground floor. So I interviewed Dio, and I asked, sort of asking him what he was doing because he was always up to some cool shit, right? He did that hearing
Yeah.
aid. He did right hearing aid where which was basically like whatever Live Aid but with metal. because
Hmm.
because the Live Aid people for Africa or whatever, we are the world, we are the
Yeah.
children, you know, um, that they didn't want grungy, dirty metal
Metal.
guys
Yeah.
involved with raising aid for Africa for impoverished African children, And so Dio was like, okay, I am fucking Ronnie James Dio. I will bring together the world's most awesome assemblage of, you know, metal people. He had Jeff Tate from Queensryche. He got Rob Halford from Judas fucking Priest, right? He got like 50, no, I don't know, but he had Dave Murray and what's his name? Adrian Paul from Iron Maiden, everybody, right? It's like when Dio called, you responded, right? And they did Hearing Aid,
Uh-huh.
and they did the song Stars, which is basically like the metal We Are the World, you know, we're stars, right? And it's incredible. So he was very much he quoted this American educator a lot, where he said that basically, if you don't have you done, something with your life, you need to basically do something important with your life, or your life has been wasted. He was a serious dude, and he was as deep as his lyrics. And when he saw the child prostitution, the sex trafficking in Hollywood, which is bad, but it's
Mm.
bad everywhere. And
Yeah.
he said he wanted to do something about it. So he started working with Dr. Lois Lee, our friend Dr. Lee, founded this, it's called Children of the Night,
Mhm.
and it's the most important organization. It's really, there's no other organization like it because they're
Yeah.
open 24/7. They are there if you're and I wish I had, I'm sorry, I wish I had their 1-800 number, but if you're, and so I will just say it. If you're watching this, if you're being sex trafficked, if you're being, sold into prostitution or pornography, your child, you know, please get in touch. Go to Google whatever you have to do. Use your phone, borrow a phone, steal a fucking phone. I don't care. Get the 1-800 number for actually, Pickles,
Yeah.
could somebody go online and just get that 1-800 number?
Mm.
Okay, it's
Yep,
extremely
I'm getting it
important.
right
Yeah.
now. Hmm.
So yeah, if nothing else, I mean, it's really awesome that we're working with Black Sabbath, but the most important thing is just helping children. And there are some people who are doing a ripoff, a fake version of
Yeah.
our book. And their name is Casey Hill and Dark Moon Rising Publications. They're fake, you know.
Mhm.
So I just want that's a public service. Um, yeah, so
Yeah.
you have that number, Pickles?
Yep. Yep. It's
Okay.
800-551-1300.
Okay,
So
I'm gonna
eight
write that
hundred
551 1-800
yeah,
551 what is it?
13
One three
1300.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
1-800
Yeah.
551 1300. If you're out there, if you're watching, if you accidentally stumble upon this, if you know um I don't know who watches these shows for what reason. Usually we just have trolls, the people who are trying to literally fucking want me to kill myself. Um, Casey Hill, Casey Hill, and so anyway, these people are fucking evil. They're literally terrorists that have been sort of attacking us and threatening us and cyber stalking my parents who are in their
Yeah.
80s. You know, they're
And
awful.
yeah,
They're
and
literally
unfortunately,
involved in
also
terrorism.
people that also pe- also other people that we were working with as well.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, it's they've been harassing a lot of people at this
yeah,
point. Well, almost like they're trying
yeah.
to,
There are these people,
they don't want us to fight against this, right?
yeah, yeah. So basically, I really, okay. So I'm not going to talk about Casey Hill. I've talked about Casey Hill enough, and I'm not going to, she's a waste of oxygen. But the important thing is that this organization Children of the Night Incorporated. It's 1-800-551-1300. If you're out there, you're listening to me. Okay, my name is Alex S. Johnson. I run Nocturnicorn Books in Carmichael, California. I'm an editor, I'm a publisher, I'm a poet, I'm an artist, I'm a human rights activist. Okay, and Alea Celeste Williams and I, Alex S. Johnson, and a number of very, very distinguished authors, including John Shirley, who wrote the movie The Crow, um, with not the bullshit 2024 version. I'm talking about the OG Crow, right? The OG, the original Crow movie with Brandon Lee. Okay, and he died on the set, right? Brandon Lee. Okay, John Shirley wrote an original story based on the song Lonely is the Word from the Heaven and Hell album that came out in 1980. That was the first um, time that Black Sabbath had Ronnie James Dio as their singer. Okay. Heaven and Hell, if you haven't heard it, it's a masterpiece, absolute masterpiece. This is an original story by the guy who created the cyberpunk genre. Okay. He's only one of like 35 authors who are on board with this. We're all gathered together to help fight child sex trafficking. It's an extremely serious issue. And we have, um, Tony Iommi from Black Sabbath. I mean, there would not be a Black Sabbath without Tony Iommi, right? He is the Hand of Doom, right? This way we call it the Hand of Doom, a literary tribute to Black Sabbath. We have a friend, a colleague named Michael Suleiman in England, who is our sort of a liaison with. So he does something called Emerald Sabbath. He's our liaison with Black Sabbath. So he's tight with the OG Black Sabbath. I'm talking about Geezer Butler, Ozzy Osbourne, um, you know, Bill Ward, uh, and
Right.
Tony Iommi, right? And so Tony Iommi is literally reading. He has a copy of the rough cut of Hand of Doom in his possession on a hard drive. And Michael Sullivan just asked me like last week. He said, "Hey mate, could you hook me up with another copy? Because they want more than one a backup copy, right, of this
Mm,
anthology, right? So that's how important it is, right? And Kosa Hill claims that she's working with Wendy Dio with Dio Cancer Fund, and she
mm,
claims that she's giving all the money for her bullshit ripoff of our book called Symptom of the Universe, a horror tribute anthology to Black Sabbath, to Wendy Dio. Except we got an email from Wendy Dio saying, I never heard of her, never heard of the bitch, right? So, and they constantly troll us, try to get us um to try to like report every time. And it's like a whack-a-mole with them, because it's you know they reported me so often that I got locked out of my own Substack, you
mm,
know,
Really?
for bullshit. Because they don't want the world to know that they're frauds. But I'm telling you that they are frauds. Casey Hill and this woman named Jeannie Rector, who does something called the Horror Zine, who's working with her, and a guy named Christopher Pelton, is the guy who sent me 100 pack of razor blades with instructions on how to fucking commit suicide. So they're very, very, very
Oh,
evil people. And this is my dad.
mm.
This is my dad. He's he's my dad. We're doing a live stream.
Okay.
We're doing a Zoom, which is going to be on up on YouTube. And this is my father. He's a legendary guy. He's a brilliant artist. What this is Stephen M. Johnson, folks. Stephen M. Johnson.
So can they see
You
me?
love
Yeah, they
Stephen
can
M.
totally see you. So could you talk to the YouTube audience that we have?
On what topic?
Well, we're talking about a lot of things, philosophy, you know, um, so yeah, and this guy, Greg Tomaini is one of the world's leading philosophers. He's
Oh,
works with Cornel West
yes,
and
I know.
Gayatri Spivak. Um,
Yeah, Cornel West went to high school here in Sacramento, by the way.
yeah,
yeah. He talks about
Hello, nice
Sacramento a
to meet
lot.
you. And you're in good hands, good company here with
yeah,
Alex.
yeah,
Nice
um,
to meet you.
yeah. So
Yeah,
that's
Good to see you,
the
Pops.
legendary Stephen M.
somewhat.
Johnson,
Yeah, okay.
the author of
So,
What the World Needs Now, which was given as a wedding gift by Bjork. Okay, Bjork,
An amazing artist
amazing
too.
artist. Yes, it's an amazing artist. He's a one of a
Yes.
kind. He is latest.
So
He's
cool.
had several exhibits in China. They love him there.
Really?
Yes,
I would
in
love to get some
Nice.
exhibits in
Yeah.
China.
Shanghai.
I got an email about teaching possibly in Beijing.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool. Wow.
yeah.
That's
Best
I
of
don't
awesome.
know.
luck
Yeah,
with that, Greg.
we
That's
should see.
awesome. What's your dream project? Like what would you love to do? What's your, you know, I know we've talked about some of your
Oh, I can't wait to be a professor.
yes.
That's
Right.
awesome.
I would love to take one of your courses.
Uh-oh.
Do you know Sarva Priyananda?
Pardon?
Do you know Swami Sarva Priyananda?
I might recognize the spelling, but I haven't heard it. There's certain things I've just encountered by reading.
Yeah, he's an amazing, really famous guy. He's a friend of ours. He's in what is he in is he in New York? Yeah, I think he's in New York. Yeah.
Sounds pretty
And
familiar.
yeah, he's world famous thought leader in terms of spirituality. He is a senior Swami of the Ramakrishna order. And he's absolutely brilliant guy because his background is in business. So he has degrees in like business and technology. And
Yeah.
check it out on YouTube. I guarantee you will love it. And he's very sort of he's on the forefront of like consciousness studies and so forth. And
Yeah.
he's a big he is also a friend of Dr. Spivak. So yeah, they're pals. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so like Kali, okay, so we're talking about Kali. What is Kali? What's Kali?
Traditionally speaking, you might say the partner of Shiva, but then
Okay,
the
so
Kali we're dealing with is
what's
something.
Shiva? So your
My
your
background. I have that tapestry in my bedroom,
yeah,
and
no,
then
no,
I
yeah, yeah. What
one
I
of
was
my
gonna s-
lovers said something like they were like, "Oh, that's a queer placement in the bedroom."
a queer placement in the bedroom. Like we were talking earlier about
You know what
the
I mean? Like
throne
it's like curious, it's curious.
curious.
Pardon?
Yeah, well, what's awesome talking about like a Kali kind of Kali centric context
Right.
is Jerbo. Like she did a concert. She was at the Roadburn Festival. Always makes me think of Rugburn, but the Roadburn Festival in 2011, which is a major heavy metal festival, and she had her backdrop was Kali, and she did an album which I reviewed for Metal Maniacs called um, Mahakali. And so I'm telling you, you guys
Uh-huh.
should talk. I mean, she's very, very accessible. She's on Facebook. She's a friend of mine on Facebook as well as you can go to the Living Jarbo and just write her an email. I know she would love to talk with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I, I,
Yeah.
I guarantee you guys would probably get along better than I do with her.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So yeah, and she's a serious reader. She devours um, literature. Yeah.
Yeah. I was wondering, I have a question for you. How might you say Kali is interrelated to Toussaint's?
Oh, wow. Okay. That's a
I know, I
really
thought of that, but I can't let
brilliant,
that go.
brilliant
Say
question.
that.
Okay. So this is my answer. This is my answer. This is a great question. Um, that pleasurable tension, that itch is karma.
Hmm.
It's karma. It's what keeps us here. And you don't know if it's like an itch you want to scratch because you've got a festering boil you're gonna, open that up and it's gonna pour all this pus out, which is karma, or it's basically the whole image of the mother is the tri the it's the triad. You always have the the maiden, the mother, and the crone, right? Goes back
Right.
thousands of years. It's an archetypal image that's found all over the world in the Paleolithic era, especially they would have um, um, these images of this sort of a skull-faced, right, of a skull-faced goddess, and it's also
Right.
in Mesoamerican pre-Columbian artifacts. You have Coatlicue. Coatlicue is Kali. It's the same thing. She even
Hmm.
has the serpents, right? You have because I made thesis on Gloria Anzaldúa. Gloria
Right.
Anzaldúa.
Which sounds like a brilliant thesis, by the way.
Thank you. I'm going to send it to you.
Yeah.
So her her she posited that that the Spanish um, did a sort of a bait and switch with the indigenous people of Mesoamerican people, where they colonized and genocided and enslaved and divided them up, and they're still doing that, right? So unfortunately or fortunately, whatever, my ancestor Herbert Eugene Bolton was given a medal by the not only the King of Spain but the Pope for his work on the borderlands. So that's pretty impressive. And this guy was a pioneering figure. He was sort of like a real life Indiana Jones, right? But
Huh.
he was the opposite, the complete opposite of the sort of the armchair historian. He went there. He did it. He dug shit up, and he risked his life. He crossed burning deserts, literally. I mean, this guy was a incredible. Steven Spielberg should make the movie, but
Huh.
Renaissance, it's that sense that you really you think you want an orgasm. You think you want an orgasm, but you don't know. There's a level of discomfort that comes arises in your consciousness. And so at the deeper level, it is Maya. I mean, the Vedic,
Illusion, right?
the sages would say that Maya is something that is ceaselessly being created um, out of our own disconnect with ourselves. That we're that we when we think, and Plato in the Phaedrus, right, had that beautiful analogy of the black horses and the white horses, right? And we have
Right.
this distant memory that we were once in the land of the land of the whatever the forms, right? But we forgot, right? And so that's where the black horses keeps dragging us down, right? The white horses are going upwards. And he also had that wonderful image of sort of like breaking out with quills all over, right?
Right.
Or wings, right? Wings. We're constantly always already bursting out with wings, but then we go and then we fall and then we go and we fall and we go and we fall. That's jouissance. That's that pleasurable instinct, which is a recollection of our true nature, which is absolute consciousness, absolute pure bliss, which is
Right.
like hotter than any slut. It's hotter than any twink. Judith Butler. I mean, should I have said that? No, I didn't say that. Sorry.
But,
I didn't say what. So no, never mind. Judith Butler. Um, I used Judith Butler a lot. I didn't use Judith Butler. I mean, I used Judith Butler's work on queer theory.
right.
Shout out to Judith Butler, right? Um, amazing, 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 and certainly somebody who is a very critic of the very kind of essentialist identity subject, identitarian subject positions that have a sort of a byproduct of the politicization of identity that we're still working with. So we have a false binary, I think, between um, are you a real woman or are you a real man? And that's some bullshit, right? We're human beings, and I think our friend Caitlin R. Kiernan has certainly gotten in a lot of trouble for being a, a biology professor. They are a scientist and with an IQ of Einstein, and there are people who say that Caitlin R. Kiernan is not only a white supremacist, but she's a transphobe.
Huh.
And like if anybody is, I mean, I like you should be friends with Billy Martin and Caitlin R. Kiernan. Should be, I mean, we should all be like I asked Caitlin to be on the show, and they respectfully declined because they're no longer really doing any interviews, but they did their last interview ever with me. So I got an exclusive interview with Caitlin R. Kiernan, which the New York Times said Caitlin R. Kiernan is one of our essential writers of dark fiction. You're a transgender um, uh, male to female um, literary icon of one of the most important writers of dark fiction alive. And our friend and and is represented in two books now. So I'm sorry, I get off, but yeah,
Cheers.
yeah. Cheers, cheers. Yeah, yeah. So the arriving back to Earth. Yeah. So it's a beautiful thing. I mean, sex is great, orgasms are great, but there's always something that's like, wait, I just had one, and then you could take some, I don't know, some pills or something. You could have more, and women like really have it going on because they can just keep on going, and we have a little bit of a limitation,
Uh,
you know. So I think, have you ever read? Of course, you've read the La Rue de Medusa by Ellen Sixu, right? Um, and
yeah.
right, and it's
I
just
invited her once to a
yeah,
Derrida event that
uh-huh,
Professor Spivak agreed to attend, but then
hmm
well, there was a professor who canceled last minute,
hmm
who was only an assistant professor at the time, and then
yeah.
domino effect, the whole event went
Oh
under
no,
because it went from having like just a three-person panel, a very simple event on Derrida.
yeah.
And then one person canceled, and the other senior professor felt insecure to be on the stage. She didn't want it to be like her interviewing Gayatri because she didn't prepare for that for months, like you
Sure.
would.
As you
So
as one
she
does,
became
right?
very uncomfortable. So we had to. And I feel horrible. Professor Stewart approached me and said, "Are we going to send the car?" And I said, "Oh
Aw,
no, I'm sorry, the event's
oh
canceled."
man, that's harsh. Yeah. Oh, that reminds
Oh,
me. That reminds me. William S. Burroughs. Okay, we need to talk about Burroughs because this was the man that Michel Foucault said he taught him everything he knew. Um, so we're talking about the power knowledge axis. We're talking about
of course, that makes all kinds of sense.
scroll. Yes. So let's talk about William S. Burroughs.
I adore Burroughs. A
Yeah.
friend of mine introduced me to Burroughs, and this was in my junior or senior year in college,
hmm
and I revere it. It's like gospel to me.
hmm Yeah, it really is, right?
Yeah, William S. Burroughs. There was just it's a biopic put out.
There was a yeah, there's a new
No,
one
no, no.
with
There's that big
with
movie that just
Daniel
came out. What's it called? Queer
Daniel
Roommate
Craig.
or
It's called
something?
Queer. Yeah, it was based on
Queer,
his
yeah.
novel, which was basically autobiography, but it's with Daniel Craig, James Bond,
Right,
uh,
right,
who, yeah, um, I think it premiered at Cannes.
right. Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah. And, the thing is, I don't do too much film criticism, so I don't. Yeah, I could, but I don't like to sit still. It's my ADHD.
I
yeah,
have that too. About sitting still.
but there is one film. I mean, Pickles hasn't seen a lot of films, but there is one film that we both agree is a masterpiece, and that movie is by the guy who made Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. It was Peter Jackson, right? He made a movie called Meet the Feebles. And could
Huh.
could Pickles, could you expand on this? Have you seen this masterpiece? This gorgeous piece of filmmaking. It's brilliant.
Oh,
Huh.
yeah, Meet the Feebles. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. It was um it's they're like Muppets, but they're just
Wrong.
totally perverted and
Oh
uh,
no.
crazy and disgusting and absurd and just politically incorrect and uh, just absolutely no. There's just like no holds barred with the characters
No
and there's
boundaries.
yeah, it's just it was unlike anything I'd ever seen before. It's like okay, so So the Muppets on
Yeah.
like acid, on speed, on like
Yeah, it's basically like an
heroin, on
X-rated
everything.
Muppets on drugs. You know,
Good.
Yeah.
it's just like you will not need any drugs. In fact, I would
Right.
caution you against
Oh,
even smoking some weed if you watch this movie because you will be like they do an entire scene which is an exact recreation of the Deer Hunter, basically, only if you can imagine with Muppets. And
yeah.
it's so wrong. It's so one of my favorite reviews of blurbs of it, it says,
Oh, I'm getting a call from my dad.
"Oh, okay.
Okay.
Uh,
You have to go.
You have to
yeah.
go. That's fine."
All right.
Yeah,
Uh,
we've had a
All
really
right. Thank you
yeah.
for joining
incredible
Well, I'd
us.
love to do
Take
session.
this
care.
again.
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's definitely
I'd
do
love to
that
do it
awesome.
again.
again.
Cool. It
Yeah.
was great getting to meet
Thank
you.
you
Take
so
care.
much for
It's
taking
All right.
wonderful.
time.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you.
nice to meet you, Leah. Cheers.
Nice to meet you too.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we'll have to talk some more about
Appreciate
well, all of us to talk some more about philosophy art.
Yeah, for
I still
sure.
need to see your art, Leah. Cheers.
Yeah, that. Oh yes, I'm gonna have to send some to you. That'll be
Yeah,
awesome.
okay.
We'll have to share. It'll be so cool.
Okay,
All
this has
right,
been
Have a
the
good
take
night.
care.
Small Bear and
Happy New
Pickles
Year.
show. Happy New Year with G.R.
Happy
Tomaini,
New Year.
philosopher, artist,
Yeah.
poet, and just incredible guy. So thank you so much. And
Cheers.
Thank
cheers. Happy New Year.
Cheers.
Happy New Year. Okay,
Happy New
everybody.
Year.
Okay,
Good night.
and then we're going to put this up on the on YouTube, and that's it.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay, cool.
we
Toodles.
love you.
Cheers.
We love
Okay,
you.
cheers.
See you guys later.
Okay, talk to you later.